This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
My name is Andrew, and I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not an expert in the field in any way, shape, or form. I'm not an expert in investing at all, but his group of counselors has great expertise and good advice and has helped me along the way as a beginner with not a whole lot of money to work with from the start. I highly recommend it for anybody, whether you're a beginner or an expert. There's a ton to learn there, and it'll help you get to the next level.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Show with Jason Hartman. You're about to learn a new slant on investing, some exciting techniques, and fresh new approaches to the world's most historically proven asset class that will enable you to create more wealth and freedom than you ever thought possible. Jason is a genuine self-made multimillionaire who's actually been there and done it. He's a successful investor, lender, developer, and entrepreneur who's owned properties in 11 states, had hundreds of tenants, and been involved in thousands of real estate transactions. This program will help you follow in Jason's footsteps on the road to your financial independence day. You really can do it. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman, with the complete solution for real estate investors.
Welcome to episode 1732. Do you want to increase the income on your properties? Nah. Of course you do. Yes, of course you do. So, I don't know if I've even mentioned this before on the show. Well, I'm sure I have over the years, but certainly hasn't been recently. So, check this out. You know, one of the things commercial real estate investors like is the way that they can add value to a property. So, for example, if you have an apartment complex, and it may seem minor, but all of this stuff kind of adds up, right? Maybe you have some areas in the apartment complex that you could rent out for storage. Or maybe you could add a laundry room and then have the laundry machines be vending machines, essentially, or put a Coke machine. You know, one of my apartment complexes, 125 unit complex I owned, we had a Coke machine on there, right? Boy, people shouldn't drink that crap. Well, it also served water, so hopefully that was the best seller. And these little things do add up and they increase your income, but they really can add up sometimes. So, for example, on single-family homes, people feel that, you know, how do I do this? How am I going to make extra money on a single-family home? I can see it in a big apartment complex where you could add a vending machine in my example there. But what about a single-family home? What can I do there? Well, guess what, folks? I have done this before, and I was reminded of it today. And I haven't done it lately. I got to start doing this again. I have rented washers and dryers to tenants. I even rented one time a television. Yes, I had a big screen TV in the house. I actually lived there. And then I turned the property into a rental. And the tenant walked in, was looking at the property. He liked the TV. I said, hey, do you want to rent it? Frankly, I didn't really have a good space for it in my new home, and I wanted a brand new one anyway. So I rented him the TV and the washer and dryer, and it turned out he actually ended up buying them eventually as well. So pretty cool thing. So I saw this article today in Mr. Landlord, and it was saying offering to rent a washer dryer to your residents can generate some extra rental income. In a discussion last week, one landlord shared that he or she only rents new equipment at $45 a month. The pair, meaning the washer dryer, not the owners or the tenants, I don't think. The pair will pay for itself in 18 months. If they last 8 to 10 years, he or she will see a decent profit. And that is true, right? I even remember in one house, I don't think I ended up doing this deal, if I can remember, but I offered to buy the tenant. There was a refrigerator in the house, but it was a pretty decrepit refrigerator. It was getting old. And the tenant wanted a new one. So I offered to buy them a new refrigerator if I could add $30 a month to their rent. And they would only be renting that refrigerator, not buying it. So you can do this a myriad of different ways. You can do flat out rental, you can do a rent to own, whatever. there's just a lot of options here, but it can really increase your income. So let me share this with you. By the way, last night we had our second Zoom meeting. We have monthly Zoom meetings for the collective mastermind group that I started with Ken McElroy and George Gammon. We had a great meeting. What a group of high-level people. I tell you, folks, no matter what, make this a goal in your life. You might already be doing it, but maybe you could do it to a larger extent. Get around people doing big things. Those people that are thinking big and doing big expand your mindset. Napoleon Hill promulgated this idea of the mastermind group, and many people over the years have followed that, profited from it, benefited from it. But Napoleon Hill also is the one, if I'm not attributing this improperly, I think it's correct, who said, "The mind of man, once stretched to a new idea, can never return to its original size," or whatever. That's not the exact quote, but you get the idea, right? You get around people doing big things, thinking big things, they expand your mindset. And once your mindset is expanded, it is hard to see it shrink back to its old ways, because you just have that adaptation, that hedonic adaptation, right? And that's one of the things we'll be doing at Empowered Investor Live in less than 2 weeks. So go to empoweredinvestor.com, get your tickets for that. It's going to be a fantastic event. Just super excited about that. By the way, we've got an announcement from our Saturday evening entertainment a little later in this episode, so stick around for that. I think you'll enjoy that. But I posted this idea today of how you could rent things in single-family homes or in multifamily apartment complexes, how you could rent things to your tenants. And one of our members of the collective, and I also posted the same thing in the Empowered Investor Inner Circle. So either one of those things, you would get the benefit of this, be interacting with these big thinkers, these doers, these people doing self-management, doing creative things to increase their return on investment. So the high-end way to go is the collective mastermind. That's $50,000 a year. I get it. It's super expensive, but not for a lot of people, right? There are people that it's a great fit for it, and the price is a qualifier, and plus, it essentially pays for several vacations every year for you, right? You're going to go on vacation anyway, and if you've got the means, you're going to spend a lot on vacation, so a lot of that is included with the collective. So it's not really as expensive as you think, but you're going on vacation and to retreats with like-minded people who are doing big things that you can learn from. Anyway, the same thing was posted in the Empowered Investor Inner Circle, a much less expensive option as well. So either way, take advantage of these two different groups that we offer. But Winston, a member of the collective, responded to my post saying, "I put a washer and dryer in each unit of a complex I bought and rehabbed. I then raised the rent by $50 a month and let each tenant know that after they finish the second year lease that they would own the washer dryers. Now I'm not renting them anymore. They are just plain income, and that raised the net operating income of my apartment complex by $30,000 a year." Now, that may seem like a big number, and he didn't say how many units were in this complex, but you could just do the reverse math and figure it out. So $50 a month, that's $600 a year per unit, and that raised his net operating income by $30,000 per year. So here's the kicker. 30,000 divided by a 5 cap, in other words, the cap rate of 5, means that it raised the value of the complex by $600,000. Also, having the washers and dryers helped me fill up a completely vacant complex much quicker. He said that he rehabbed the entire complex, and I guess he did it all at once. Most apartment owners, and the way I've done it with the apartments I've owned, is you rehab the properties one at a time when tenants move out. and then you re-tenant them at a much higher price. Usually about 30 to 35% higher price, depending on how much rehab you do. But yeah, a great opportunity there, folks. There's your tip for the day for increasing your income. Just wanted to share that with you. We get these kind of discussions and tips and great ideas all the time in the Empowered Investor Inner Circle, and now in the collective mastermind group as well. So look for that. Okay, so today's show, let's first make sure you go to empoweredinvestor.com and you have secured your tickets for our live event, including a property tour on Friday and a conference all day Saturday and Sunday, and lots of entertainment. Super discounted, beautiful resort hotel property. I highly recommend staying a couple extra days on either side of the event because we've got a discounted room block of only $169 per night. Take advantage of that and go to empoweredinvestor.com. Get your tickets right away if you have not done so already. So today's episode, we are going to have a little bit of Q&A. Then we're going to talk just a little brief recording about Property Tracker, a new thing that we made, just so you can hear about that. And of course, a talk with our Saturday evening entertainment at the Collective. One of the themes of this is, of course, becoming an empowered investor and also thinking big. One little housekeeping item too before we get into the Q&A. I have to mention, apologies, we did not get our Flashback Friday episode up as quickly as planned, so it was a little late. So you're going to get 2 episodes kind of stacked up. So anyway, just has never happened before, but it did happen this time. So apologies for that. So you'll have Flashback Friday and this one coming right after it. All right, let's dive in to the Q&A session.
Okay, this is from Mahan. He says, hey, Jason, what is your overall view of the Canadian housing market right now? How does it compare to what's happening down in the U.S.? Thanks for your work.
The Canadian housing market, look, I'm no expert, but in the major Canadian cities, that market is Bubbleville. It's just crazy, especially Vancouver. And believe me, I love Vancouver. The first long distance relationship I ever had when I was young was with a beautiful girl from Vancouver. I remember going up there to visit her many times when I lived in Southern California. And, what's happening in Vancouver is absolutely nuts. That is the most frothy market maybe on planet Earth.
Yeah.
But Toronto and Montreal, other great cities, those prices have just gone crazy in those markets.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Canada is they don't have the type of secondary mortgage market like we have in the U.S., where these government subsidized mortgages through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so, there you're renewing your mortgage every 5 years, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I would not be doing, we have a lot of Canadian clients who buy properties in the U.S.
I was just going to bring that up. How difficult is it for, say, a Canadian to invest their cash in housing down here versus, just avoiding Canada altogether?
It's very easy. The only problem is they can't get our great financing.
Oh, bummer.
They can still get some decent financing that we can, connect them with the sources for it, but not as good as an American for sure. When it comes to a Canadian asking Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to loan the money for 30-year fixed, Fannie Mae and Freddie say take off, to the great white. You're not going to buy a house with our
but buckle up, it's a lie.
Yeah, I love the way Canadian stuff.
All right. Mark asks, hey, Gene and Jason, during the last Q&A, you mentioned that you once did a European property tour. I'm considering diversifying my little property portfolio into the broader market to spread risk and would be interested to know where you liked or still like in Europe. All of my properties are single family homes in decent areas, but I would be open to suggestions. Bear in mind, my first rental property that I bought all those years ago was and still is 500 yards from the house I grew up in with my parents. These are big steps for me. Thanks. Grateful as always, Mark.
And I'm assuming that Mark lives in the U.S. and grew up.
No, actually, Mark lives in Isle of Man. He's in, he's an island in the British area.
Isle of Man, that's exotic. That's a big asset protection place.
He's probably got a huge castle and he's sitting there trying to figure out. Yeah. Simon Dixon.
Look, this is a long topic, okay, and we're not going to have time to discuss it tonight, but I have done several podcasts on this. If you go to jasonhartman.com and you type in on the search engine there, international investing or international real estate. You'll hear me talk all about this. But the U.S. has a very special housing market that is unlike any other on the planet. I was born in Europe. I've been to 87 countries, some of them many, many times. I've looked at real estate in, easily 35 or 40 of those countries that I've visited. And I've gone out with brokers there. I've really looked. You don't have the data. You don't have the transparency.
Yeah.
You have a very expensive closing process that's very opaque and very inefficient. And you certainly don't have our fantastic financing. And you don't have our MLS system. Just last week, I did a whole piece on the Creating Wealth podcast about how the MLS system in the United States is the envy of the world.
Yeah, right.
The U.S. is just a very special real estate market. And listen, I'm not pitching my own book here, okay? We could easily sell international properties, and many people have pitched us to do this. I would love to do it. I think it'd be a lot of fun, but the numbers just do not work that well.
That makes sense, huh?
Nothing works as well so far that we've found. Okay. Now, if the situation in the US keeps deteriorating, and it is deteriorating, and I don't mean economically, but in terms of the political risk and all the craziness that's going on here, don't even have to mention. If it deteriorates here and doesn't deteriorate elsewhere, then relatively speaking, elsewhere starts to look more attractive. But as of today, the US is still far and away the best thing going.
Yeah, it really does come down to financing, probably for most people more than anything else. I know George likes, he loves that inefficiency because that gives him an opportunity to make his money on the buy side.
Yeah,
leveraging that. So
true. To visit George in Colombia, in Medellin, over a year ago, he showed me some of his different properties he was rehabbing and so forth. But the difference is George lived there. Okay. Yeah. And George had his finger on the pulse of that market. He had connections there. It's much different than just being some arm's length guy and investing in another country. Now, we help people invest nationwide in the U.S., and we have clients from all over the world that buy U.S. properties. But again, the U.S. just has better rule of law. It has better data. It has...
your point there is that it's so easy and efficient in the United States that a guy like me in California can invest in multiple jurisdictions throughout the United States and never, ever step foot in one of those houses.
Right. Yeah, I know.
That just shows you how good it is.
Yeah, I've been selling some of my houses and doing 1031 exchanges to buy other properties lately. And I tell you, some of these properties I've had for 15, 16 years, I've never even seen them.
Yeah. Right.
I'll get the seller's disclosure statement, Gene, that I have to sign because it's required.
Yeah.
I type on it. Seller has never seen this property. I've never been there.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be one of those guys too. I just have no desire to go to Pennsylvania.
And when you mention Carrie, the audience doesn't know this, but Carrie is your investment counselor with my company. She works for us, and she's been helping you invest nationwide. So that's great.
Yeah, she's awesome. I think that's another point too. Not to pitch your product, Jason, but there's something special about if you're getting ignored from a property manager, and then you start tagging the person who's responsible for sending, interested buyers to those people, they start to respond quite quickly. So having Carrie in your corners, it's great. Because there's a little bit of leverage there. Because you piss off Carrie, then you stop selling houses through your network.
We stop recommending those men.
Exactly. Okay. Here's from Saturn here. Hello, Jason. Just started on Meet the Masters, the episode "Refi Till You Die." From a tax perspective, is the idea that we refi without cash to get the money tax free. For your monthly living expenditures. And then the monthly tenant rent payment would just go into paying off the loan, which means our net profit is low or zero. And but what about interest rates on the refi loan? Is there still comparatively cheaper than paying income taxes on the rent? Thanks. You want to just kind of demystify Refi Till You Die just a little bit, probably help them out.
Yeah, so this requires visual aids, and it requires a little bit of time.
Yeah, there's a great video on YouTube about it, though.
Yeah, and I did do it. I've got videos on my channel and on George's, because George did an interview with me. We went about an hour and 10 minutes just over a year ago on his channel, Refi Till You Die, and then it's also on my YouTube channel as well, and on the podcast. But basically, the idea is, look, you want to equity strip. you want to refinance and pull cash out of the properties, and you use that cash, if you wish, to live on or to buy more properties, either one, right? And remember, there's no tax on borrowed money. So the refi to die strategy is the most tax efficient way to extract the wealth from your real estate portfolio. That's super important to keep in mind, and it works great. I think part of that question, Gene, kind of intimated that they were sort of asking about when you refinance, you get bigger mortgages and you take cash out of the properties, well, does the mortgage payment go up? Yes, sometimes, not lately because the rates are so low that the payment, you can actually get cash out of the properties, pay off the old loan, the existing loan, and get cash out and still have a lower payment. But even if you didn't, you're in a position where the rents are constantly going up as the value of those properties go up. And the value going up is what allows you to do the refi to die plan. The illustration we did on George's channel and on my channel is at a average 6% appreciation rate over the course of 12 years. You're probably all familiar with what's called the rule of 72s. And based on the rule of 72s, that just says the property will double. Okay. So at 6% appreciation every 12 years, the portfolio doubles in value. So if you start out with a $1 million portfolio, it's worth $2 million. And you do the refi till you die. So, yeah.
Got it. And that's because your renter is actually paying down the equity on the loan. Plus the appreciation, the 6%. Got it.
Actually, one more thing. There's 3 elements there. There's the appreciation on the property, the tenant mortgage pay down, and of course, the one we would love the most, inflation-induced debt destruction.
Shorting the dollar. Yeah.
Dollar. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Alex asks, hey, Jason, Gene, thanks for all the content and educating us. Last time Jason was on, he said he used RV ratio a while ago, and it's a little dated. Is there a more accurate way to measure RV now, especially with interest rates so low? Thanks. You still keep the same old formula?
Well, it's the same formula.
Yeah.
Just comparing the value of the property to the rent.
It's just the metrics
So if it's a $200,000 property and it rents for $1,400 per month, that means your rent to value ratio is 0.7. If it was 1%, which you're pretty much not going to see on a good quality property anywhere anymore, then it would rent for $2,000 a month. If you're getting 0.7 in today's market, you're doing pretty well. And it's okay based on these super low interest rates. Not bad.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's see. Daniel asks, hey, Jason, I bought a single family home in Connecticut a few years ago for around $220,000. I think it would sell for around $320,000 if I sold it today. I could probably rent it for around $2,100 a month. After paying it down over a few years, plus refinancing recently, my monthly payment is around $1,250 a month, fixed over 30 years. I plan on moving and then either selling or renting. I would be a first-time property manager, and eventually, if I keep it, a long-distance property manager. Now, what options do you think make more sense? I'd like to start building a real estate portfolio, and this could be a start, but I'm unsure about managing. Should I leave the state in the next few years? Thanks, Daniel. So he's in Connecticut.
Okay, so Connecticut, not a landlord-friendly market. Okay, that's the first thing to understand. But also, how much did he say the property was worth, Gene?
He says if he were to sell it today, he'd get $320,000 for it.
And what's the rent for?
He could rent it for $2,100. He's got a mortgage that's $1,250. So
okay, I don't care what the mortgage is. Okay, so let's throw the mortgage out. That's just
no big deal.
Make your head mushy. Okay. Don't think about the mortgage payment. It is what it is. You know, it depends what the rate is. Is it adjustable? Is it fixed? What's the loan balance? Don't care. It's too complicated. Okay.
Got it.
That tends to distract, and deflect attention. You simply want to look at the rent to value ratio. So that rent to value ratio is definitely not great.
I would add that's if he were to sell the house today, that's what he'd get for it. But he paid for it. He paid $220,000 for it.
I'm so glad
his money in. Yeah, his money in is $220,000.
Okay, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Notice that when we talk about RV ratio, it stands for rent to value ratio. It's not called, notice distinctly, it's not called the rent to what I paid for it 15 years ago ratio.
Great distinguishment. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good point. Yeah.
It's called the rent to current value ratio. Now, why is that so important? Here's why. Because the amount of equity in that property represents an opportunity cost. I study economics, okay? And economics is basically the science, the art and science, we'll say, of managing scarce resources. Okay, I think that's a fair definition of economics to some extent. And so a scarce resource is capital, right? And we want our capital working as hard for us as possible. When we have it locked up in equity in a property, it's not working for us, or at least not really hard, because we could pull that capital out, use leverage. It's self-liquidating debt. We don't pay our own debts. Our tenants pay our debts with our real estate. And so why not have that capital available to buy more properties or to do something with, even to go have fun with, right? Doesn't matter. At least you're using it. The rent to what I paid for it ratio is not a ratio I will ever promote.
Got it. Good way to distinguish. Yeah.
Current value.
Okay, great. Okay, all right, let's move on here. Let's see. Daniel Anderson asks, "Hey, Jason, I'm looking at trading my house in suburbia for a farm in a more rural area. Sounds like a good idea. I'm wondering what area of the U.S. you would think would be the most socially stable and economically socially free in the future. We currently live in Utah, but land here is expensive and dry, so we're looking at moving to Virginia, which is closer to West Virginia than D.C., since my wife has a family out there. I worry a little bit about moving closer to Washington, D.C. Am I just being paranoid?"
No, I don't think you're being paranoid.
Not at all.
If you want stability, you need to be in a red state. Okay, you need to be in a right-leaning state, not a left-leaning state. And of course, within these states, there are cities and counties, right? We all know that, obviously, even neighborhoods. Those are the places that are going to be more socially stable. I would not count Virginia in that group. I would think Utah would be actually really quite good. It sounds like you don't like Utah for various reasons. So you look at the others. You look at places like Tennessee, Florida, Texas. Right. These are the sort of the really desirable states with, no state income taxes, with lower regulation, with just a climate that is more in line with the vision of the founding fathers of the American Republic. And I think those places will be much more stable. I mean, I got to tell you, I don't know if you follow our governor here in Florida, DeSantis. Now, keep in mind, I've only lived in Florida for 3 years. Okay. I'm new here. I'm from Southern California, the Socialist Republic.
Right.
So that's where I lived most of my life. Okay. I mean, even Arizona, Nevada are pretty good, but just, you don't want to be in California, New York, DC, Virginia, those places, Connecticut, like the last question.
Yeah.
These places are just not Massachusetts. You want to avoid, just avoid places like that are, they're just too woke.
Too woke, man. Yeah, the tyranny is running hot these days with these folks.
Tyranny is wokeism.
Why can't you just let them save your life for you? That's how they think.
So we are super excited about our Empowered Investor Live conference coming up in Orlando. And we're also very excited about the Saturday evening entertainment. We have contracted with a band, and I tell you, their name is in keeping with what we are all trying to do as investors and what the weekend is about, what the conference is about. So I'd like to introduce Colin. He is the leader of the band Think Big. Don't you love that name? Colin, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jason, and welcome everybody. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody at the conference on Saturday evening, the 11th. And as Jason said, our whole motto of Think Big is to make it a big production and have just a heck of a lot of fun with it. So we're really looking forward to joining your audience and your team.
Well, we're looking forward to it too. Tell us a little bit about your great band and some of your members and their background. I mean, they've played some gigs with some very famous people, right?
Absolutely. The band has actually been playing live since 2003. It's amazing the number of musicians that have settled in the Orlando area. And Jason mentioned our first lead guitar player actually was from England. He is now retired and moved to Texas, but he's played with huge greats like Jeff Beck, Jethro Tull, Deep Purple. And our current lead guitar player, Mike Gironda, has played with the Coasters, the Platters, the Ides of March, Molly Hatchet, and several others. People have graced the stage with Willie Nelson, with American Steel, and some of the other big crossover bands, and even some country bands. So we actually kind of specialize, if you will, in classic rock music and country rock and Southern rock. So we're going to have a lot of fun. It's all danceable music. You'll know every song we play. So we're looking forward to it.
Good stuff. And you've got quite a repertoire on your playlist. So we are mixing and matching and picking and choosing the best songs for our group. And one of the things we want to make sure is that everybody just has a great time on Saturday, the 11th, and people are up and dancing and singing along, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. Now, your band is either 5 or 6 members, right? Depending on the performance?
Correct. That is correct. And we, like myself, I tend to do the acoustic and rhythm guitar work and some vocals in the band. And then we have a lead guitar player, bass player, keyboard player, and then also a drummer. And then we're hoping that he's back from Texas at that time, but we have a saxophone player that also plays with us on a regular basis.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Let's hope Kenny G can join us. Yeah. So on the more financial or business side, since that's what the conference is about, you've got quite a background in your own right. You had a software company you sold. Just tell us a little bit about your background or some of the other band members, not just what you do for fun and love here.
Oh, sure. My wife and I just recently sold our company last fall and semi-retired, if you will, but it was involved in big data and data analytics and business intelligence, mostly geared towards the hospitality industry. And prior to that, I did work 25 plus years in the hospitality industry. So that was kind of my background. Mike Gironda, our lead guitar player, that was his profession for many, many years, as he played in all those great bands I mentioned earlier. Now he tends to tune pianos throughout Central Florida, and particularly for some of the big name acts that come through town. He's tuned Billy Joel's piano, he's tuned Elton John's piano, and several of the other big name bands that stop here. Darren, our bass player, has been playing music since he was a little kid, grew up in a funk household, if you will, with a great mixed family, and now he works for a construction type company doing windows. And music. That's
big business in Florida, by the way, folks.
It is huge. And then our drummer John actually has been playing music his whole life, but his daytime job, if you will, is he is a chef. And he works at one of the prominent clubs downtown, and he plays with us in the evenings. So we have a lot of fun with that.
You know, a lot of people don't think of it that way, but Orlando, Florida is quite an entertainment hub. I mean, you know, that's all largely centered originally around Disney and so forth and Universal Studios.
Correct.
But there are a lot of entertainers here. You know, this is a show business place. Amazingly, you know, a lot of people don't think of that way, but I just wanted to sort of remind them of it. If you think about it, Orlando really is a show business town.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you know, the Backstreet Boys started here. In fact, Joey Fatone literally lives down the street from me here in my neighborhood. So one of the lead members of the band Foghat, which is, you know, old band, lives like an hour from here. So there's just a ton of people right here in Central Florida that have retired, and this is where they've made their home.
Well, they want to reduce their tax rate too, so
there is that.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, Colin, we are looking forward to your performance on the 11th at Empowered Investor Live, and we're just really excited to have you, especially with the theme of the conference, which is thinking big, right? And that's all what our investors are doing too, so we just can't wait. Anything else you want to tell people?
We just want to say thank you very much, Jason, for inviting us to play at this event. I think the name of the band, Think Big, goes right with the theme. So we're looking forward to having a great conference.
Look forward to seeing everybody there.
Thank you very much.
For real estate investors, if you have 1 or 100 properties, managing them can be challenging. What you need is a solution that simplifies a complex process and gives you control while saving you money. Introducing Property Tracker, the best tool to accelerate your financial freedom. At a glance, you can evaluate, track and manage the financial performance or your real estate. With Property Tracker, you can quickly analyze your properties and make informed decisions. You can easily track and organize all of your income and expenses along with legal documents, contracts, contacts, and your mortgages. It makes tax time a lot easier too. We simplify the management and provide you with actionable insights into the financial performance of your portfolio. Sign up for your free account at propertytracker.com today.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.